Are we going to cover what, how, and why?
Yes. How and why? What?
Have you changed that P2P to S2P?
Yeah,
No?
yeah. No,
Okay.
it's for so essentially just to set context, essentially what we were using as vendor management
Yeah,
earlier,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
for Procure to Pay. The recrystal and the final nomenclature for it is source to pay.
Yeah.
Essentially, I mean, also renamed with the view of what the product will continue to grow into in the next couple of quarters, right? So vendor management or Procure to Pay would have been just a part of what we are intending to build, and it's obviously not possible to keep moving and changing propositions and needs, right? And also globally recognizable, right, as a product. So that's the intent with which we are freezing now on source to pay.
This sounds very similar to purchase to pay of cash.
So there are multiple versions,
versions,
right?
yeah.
Source to pay, request to recon, but all of them sort of, also have different connotations, but purchase to pay, source to pay, sort of in the same lens.
I think Procure to Pay is a nomenclature which is used by SAP, right? As of now, or not really?
So Ariba is basically the
Yeah.
Procure to Pay.
Yeah.
And then they have the S2P module behind it.
Okay.
So you show them that diagram, our entire, I think the full flow where we are currently.
We come to it will take.
No, I just basically so that you guys get a.
Is there any new features introduced or?
We'll come to it. All of that is a part.
Excited group here. You have an excited group today.
Good.
Yeah,
That's how it
it's
is.
folks on the call, we are audible, right? I just want to be sure.
Hey Rashi, yes.
Okay.
Start.
Okay. I think before we begin, I'd like to know what you understand by Procure to Pay or source to pay, whatever.
Okay, so from what I understand, previously we only used to facilitate vendor payments or just doing the payments. Right now we are facilitating right from raising a purchase order to basically following the merchant throughout the process of creating a purchase order and then paying him. So all the things which come into vendor management, right from vendor management to payment, I think we are now looking to venture into that.
Close. Okay. I'm going to take an example to explain the problem and the solution as well. I'm going to take a very simple example of, sourcing, say, 100 markers for resume. Okay. So we'll go through the current process in the market. Pretty much most of the people I spoke to, this is what they follow. Now there's a purchase request raised, say, for those 100 markers, and the request is raised on email, and the request approval also happens on email. The head of the department says yes, no, whatever it is. And then it moves to purchase order raised, which now happens on an ERP. Now the purchase order again comes back to email. So it travels on email to the vendor, to internally the team and everything. And from there, vendor advances again happen on the banking app. Now after vendor advances are made, vendor delivers and shares invoices again on email. And once that's done, his invoice also comes to us through an email, and the weekly payouts again are done on a banking app. Now this transaction needs to be manually entered in an ERP, and reconciliation happens on an ERP. So you can see how disconnected this process is. It's happening in multiple different places. So there are multiple chances for errors, duplication, and tracking down this entire flow is very difficult during auditing. So this is the current process that is mostly being followed. There are slight variations in certain scale of companies, but overall, this is what I heard from the calls that I made. Okay, so this is the problem that we have right now. This is what we're solving. So these are some of the statements that were made.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you just go back to the previous. How many people, like in your experience and your how many people do operate on this one?
All of
Like
them.
how many set of people? Example, I have a company and I have 26 employees. So how many people do work on this?
I didn't get you. You have a
For
company.
example, let's say it's e-commerce business. I have 2-3 finance operations. So is it only the finance side who works on this, or is there some other person who is included in this?
So the stakeholders in this entire process you're asking for, right? So for example, say marketing wants to source maybe gifts for customers, right? So now the person handling this particular project starts the purchase request process, and it goes to the head of marketing for approval. Then a finance person gets involved in it, and then he does all of this, payments and manual entries and ERP and everything. And then there is a vendor. And so these many stakeholders are mostly involved in that process.
So also like just to add a little more detail to it, right? So I think the complexity of the process remains whether you're a 20 member
Correct, no, exactly,
employee
that
size
was my point.
and 100, right? Because you will deal with vendors irrespective of that, right? The complexity and the number of stakeholders that get involved in the process is what we think is basically that keeps expanding.
And it's broken, it's not a linear communication.
It's very rarely a
Yeah.
linear communication, irrespective of the size of the organization, right? And number of vendors adds to the complexity, number of stakeholders who kind of need to make an approval also adds to the complexity. That is what essentially changes in the spectrum of it.
Also, this is consistent across industries or more specifically to some
So,
industries?
very much something that is relevant to all industries, let me put it that way. There are a few industries where there would be slightly more nuancing to it. I'll give you an example, right? I mean, for hypothetically speaking, in a retail company or anywhere where inventory is very large, right? Take for instance something like Namdhari's that we have in Bangalore as a chain, right? Number of vendors would be insane,
Huge.
right? As compared to say a fintech, for
Yeah.
example, right? So again, the same logic applies. Complexity keeps on evolving, right? Inventory management will also add a few more layers on top of this process. But the
I think
base
they operate
process,
via GRM three-way.
but the base process and the base structure of it is sacrosanct, which is why I feel that it is relevant across all industries.
Yeah.
Some more industries, there's more nuancing that gets added to it.
Rashi, one doubt on this. If you were to put out or say or use a few keywords to call out the problem statement that businesses face in this current process today, right? What would those words be?
Yeah, I think the next slide will sort of cover that. Subhash.
Awesome. Awesome.
Let's move. Okay, so summarizing what we understood now, this entire process, these are the core problem statements that the people I spoke to really mentioned. They called out manual process for payouts and this entire email approval, bank transfers, and all of this was a manual process because a lot of stakeholders are involved and payouts are happening on net banking, NEFT, and all of that. So a lot of manual process. Auditing is a stress because multiple tools, multiple platforms, and every stage of the process happening in different places, and so many people are being involved. Weekly, monthly payout cycles that are delaying advances and project timelines. This was one of the things, one of the CFOs mentioned this, that when a PO is processed and it's also approved sometimes, there are chances that it goes back, somebody in the cycle declines and goes back for an edit and comes back. Certain times the finance team doesn't have visibility of what happened to that PO also. So now advances are delayed because it didn't happen and they lost track of the entire cycle until an escalation happened. So only after that happened, they started to accelerate that particular project process again. So the payouts, since most companies have a payout cycle of either weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. So again, those advance payments and project payments happened much later than it was supposed to. Multiple stakeholder involvement, making it a lengthy, chaotic process on email. As we saw, there was an example that internally when this source to pay was being discussed, I think Sriram showed us an email thread of I think about 200 emails for a very small, simple procurement that was being made in Razorpay itself. So that many people and that many emails get exchanged, and that's how messy the process is. And finally, tracking different budgets and stakeholder approval structures and timelines is an issue because every team is different, every team size is different, the structures are different. So this, we simplify all of these. Any questions here? So we are moving to understanding what source to pay solution is now. We are calling it an integrated source to pay solution for maximum financial control because we are putting all of these problems and giving them one solution for it, which is why we're saying integrated. And our, the core benefit that anyone takes away from this is financial control.
So essentially, like you'll understand through this entire process, especially when we move to a view, this view where Shweta will kind of walk you through what the ideal solution stack essentially looks like. The core, what are merchants really looking for, right? Out of an ideal source to pay solution, it is essentially control, right? Do I have control over how much budget did I set? Do I have control over how much money is going from one place to another? Do I have control over how much money loss I might be sort of incurring? It is all about having visibility over the process. Therefore, the core proposition has been defined as maximum financial control. And through whatever insights that we've been able to even gather from any of our competition, what is it that they are essentially using as their core proposition or linchpin to sort of communicate what is it the benefits rely on? It is essentially around the four keywords of control and visibility. And that's a theme that you will also see a lot recurring in our communications going forward.
You must have seen this process already multiple times and shared it, but I'll take you through it once again. So there are three parts to this entire solution. One is vendors, Razorpay X, the dashboard, and then there is a external ERP. Now, starting with vendors, there is a vendor portal in which vendors have specific access. Each vendor has their own login access, and they're able to download POs, upload invoices, and check the status of the payment and advances and all of that. So it has limited features, but this is the capability we have. So this completely eliminates the vendor communication part of the problem that we have in the whole process. Moving on, Razorpay X has a budgeting module where there are cost centers for every single department. You can set up different, I'll go through the details later, but generally how to control budgets, raising a purchase request, approving purchase approvals, multiple different department heads, and the entire process of bringing all the stakeholders under one platform, raising purchase orders or uploading purchase orders, and sending these vendors, a GRN, uploading a GRN, uploading invoices, and then a three-way matching, where PO, bill, and GRN are sort of checked to see whether.
What is GNR?
GRN is goods receivable note. So in case of physical good deliveries, like for example, if we're getting a bunch of markers to office, then they will give us a receipt saying 100 were delivered. So the system is able to check whether PO order was for 100, if goods receivable note also says 100, and what's the final bill say, and what's the pricing. So it checks all three parameters and says exactly how much payment needs to be made. Are there any discrepancies in it, and does it need to be changed? Finally, purchase clearance. If everything is fine in a three-way, then a purchase clearance happens. And once purchase clearance is done, vendor gets updated about that as well. And a payout happens. A payout status is also sent to vendor through the vendor portal. And finally, reconciliation. Now, all of these things that you see, there are certain places where it's marked here that all these entries are happening in the ERP automatically once the API integration is made. So, a finance person doesn't have to go back and forth making multiple entries in different platforms. So they can just handle one dashboard and everything else is taken care of by itself.
So, Shweta, which are those blockers here which Razorpay X is building as a product now?
I didn't understand.
So Razorpay X has had vendor payments before as well, right?
Yeah.
Now, apart from that, what are the new things that you have put here in the flowchart which gets added as a product add?
I think from purchase clearance, payouts, and reconciliation is what we had in vendor payment so far.
Correct.
Everything before that is
Being added.
Being added. Some of them is in the works already, right? We can talk about timelines also in terms of what is coming when, right? A few things have gone into PA also, but intent to show this is that this is what a 360 view would essentially look like, right? And we can further talk about, like right now, for example, we have two-way matching. We don't have three-way matching, right?
GRN is still not.
Yeah.
Right. We have two-way matching right now, and every collateral mode we are saying is basically three-way matching coming soon, right? So, but intent is in Q3 itself, we are going to be able to provide for this also. So in our pitches, we can always go ahead and say that that this is going to be an upcoming feature within the next XYZ weeks.
What
Right? And
about
we give
purchase
that.
approval? Sorry. Purchase approval was.
Those are already,
approval
all-
was
Approval
already-
workflow is already very much there. So after this, we'll go into each of these modules basically, and we'll also kind of define for you guys hopefully that what are the timelines of what is coming soon, so that can be used as well.
And I don't want to confuse you guys, but what you're seeing here is procure to pay. Before this is the sourcing module, right? Where, how do you source the right kind of vendors? How do you collate them together? How do you check their credit and all of that stuff? We're going to build that also, but that's a much more futuristic view. So you'll see beyond budget, right? You go behind as well, where how do you actually get the vendors on board? How do you source them in the first place? which is why it's going to be a complete source to pay solution. That's
So currently, we can say we are pitching for procure to pay, but it's actually a
yeah,
source.
you can say that we're building the source part there. We have a procure to pay solution end to end.
Yeah.
We're building the source to pay side, which should come out in a few months. That's what you can say.
Oh.
Just to clarify, it's something that is not necessarily on the screen, but we also have the vendor management portal, right? Like that would be part of.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah,
Right.
sorry. So that would be what he's talked about in terms of the source to pay.
In the middle, it just basically joins your source to pay and your procure to pay modules.
Mhm.
Source to pay is the biggest umbrella.
Yeah.
Procure to pay is a part of it.
Yeah.
I also was mentioning that the vendor portal starts from vendor onboarding itself, like uploading.
So
of
the
the
KYC
document,
thing,
KYC,
yeah.
all of that happens there. Then the communication part of it is.
Okay.
One question, just like we need purchase invoices, we create purchase invoices, will vendor be able to create a sales invoice and then send it to us?
Yes, he will be able to upload it in
Create,
the
not
vendor portal.
only upload, not create.
Create, no, I don't think.
In due course of time, so basically PO has multiple layers to it, right? So that I would say that PO uploading is one part of it, then it becomes PO creation, right? So your question, I think, is can he create the PO? That is basically in,
But vendor doesn't create a.
vendor doesn't create a PO, but essentially talk about can the finance manager create a PO,
I mean,
right? Rather than
sales,
uploading it.
No. Take a step back. Take a step back. What is this solution and where does invoice creation come? Just think for a minute. Who creates the invoice? No.
Just like we create a purchase order. Then
No.
after
Let's understand it from first principles. It will help us all resolve that doubt. It's a very nice question actually. Who creates the invoice?
I mean, if I'm purchasing something, I'll.
The one who is receiving the payment creates the invoice.
What is that person called in this diagram?
Vendor.
Vendor, correct. And this particular diagram, whatever solution we are building is for whom?
Merchant.
Correct. So a merchant does not create the invoice. It is the vendor who's creating it, but we are selling it for merchants. So invoice creation will not be built in this. If we have to extend our solution for when winning over vendors, etc., that's a different problem altogether. But invoice creation does not come inside this. Clear?
Got it. Yes, Sriram.
Merchant only creates the purchase order.
Yeah, I understand. I was just asking if vendor can create his own sales invoice
No,
on the vendor.
no.
That was the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question actually. Go back to the diagram. This is for folks attending the session. You don't see any feature here which is called a source to pay or procure to pay. We will never be launching a feature which is called source to pay. Do you realize why we are telling the story as source to pay, but you don't see the word source to pay in this entire slide?
I think before we were positioned only facilitate the payment option, but now we want to, be visible as a solution which does end-to-end things. So I think that signifies the end-to-end workflow model.
Largely correct. Yeah. What Aditya says is the summary. You will never see a feature called source to pay. Never. We are launching purchase order. We will launch approval on purchase order. We will launch GRN. We will launch three-way matching, two-way matching, whatever it is. But there is no one feature called source to pay. It's a journey. That entire end-to-end journey is called source to pay. Within that, there are end modules and added. That's how it is. So don't get confused between, oh, you said source to pay, but you're launching purchase orders. Don't get confused like that. If there is confusion, please ask me. Because it is a legitimate confusion. You will always see product putting out saying that we are launching GRN, we are launching purchase orders. You will never hear that product is actually building a feature called source to pay.
Sriram, the ITC thing is basically the reconciliation part in this diagram, or it is something which comes after reconciliation?
That is accounting. So there's a slide for that. We'll come to that.
Okay.
Moving on. So quick summary of what we understood so far. The problem is that the entire process is disconnected and it's a multi-platform approach right now, through emails, through banking apps and ERPs. But our solution is saying putting everything in a single dashboard that's integrating the entire process. The benefit to businesses is greater visibility, control, and maximum financial efficiency. So this is a summary of the problem and solution and the benefit. So now we'll move into the specific features we have. So starting with purchase orders. So the biggest reason why purchase orders are in existence is to make spending accountable. So through purchase orders, we are able to verify invoice details against POs when a project has been completed before the payment is made to avoid errors and duplication of payments. POs also help vendors have some kind of proof of material to get started with a project. You can keep track of the project budget by linking multiple invoices against a single PO as well. So I think this is a common practice in a lot of companies. Have department-wide visibility of POs and their statuses. So these are the four core benefits of purchase orders. These are the capabilities. Now you can create POs, you can automate vendor communication, tag POs and bulk upload POs as well in the PO module of source. Any questions? Sir? Do you have anything to add here?
So largely fine.
I just wanted to understand one thing. So the budget centers basically would reflect the balance after the payment is done or directly after the PO is raised.
Budgets come before the
Yeah,
purchase
that's
order.
No. My question is, let's say marketing has a budget of 10,000 rupees and they are raising a purchase order to do performance marketing of 5,000 rupees. So the moment they raise a purchase order, their budget should reflect, or
Yes.
the budget should reflect after they have done the payment for performance marketing to XYZ vendor.
No, I think they have a real-time utilization view of how much they have, how much they can spend, and while raising a PO, they'll know you're spending so much, this is how much is left of it. So they have a view throughout the cycle. It doesn't happen towards the end.
So I believe after raising a PO, they can see the
Yes,
budget
they
utilization.
can always have a view of it at every stage. Coming to budgets, controlled spending is the main.
One second. The previous slide. Do we know why a business wants to create a purchase order? This is a feature. Why is it important for the merchant?
To have a record of all the purchases he's doing and also to file.
That's the invoice is there, no?
Sorry?
Record of all purchases is invoice. Why do we need a purchase order?
I think it's part of the planning process.
Correct.
The
That's the
budgeting.
answer. That's the right answer. If you want to buy, say, if you want to run a hackathon, and in the hackathon you need to buy 10,000 bags. Just by getting the invoice, you will never be able to forecast how much money you are going to spend. So first you create a purchase order saying, for the purpose of hackathon, I'm going to buy 10,000 bags. And the total value is 1 crore, let's say. So you've already parked it in your budget and in your annual planning and saying that for this activity, it's going to be only 1 crore spent with this vendor for bags. So when the actual bags come, that's the invoice and the goods. So you'll be able to know what was my actual bill. Is it greater than 1 crore or less than 1 crore? Then how should I handle the delta? If you just have invoice, then there is no planning. Whatever money comes, you're just throwing it out. Then you will never know whether you're over budget, under budget, what was planned, not planned, what was agreed upon, everything. It's just single point. There is no actual point of reference or a truth and then the reality. So it's for control, exerting more control. That's why scaled up businesses require purchase orders.
Moving to budgets, budgets mainly have to control how much we spend. So through our budgets module on source to pay, we can allot different budgets to different cost centers with specific owners. Cost centers could be our departments, could be marketing, HR, facilities, and different departments. And every department has a different budget, so that's also customizable. And in case there is overspending by any of the cost centers, there is also a feature to auto decline the POs to control the spending. And detailed transaction and PO history is available to understand where the budgets are being spent. So with the budgets module, we have cost centers. So this is a view of how it looks. So you can see the marketing, product design, the cost centers. And these are the owners, and you can see the status of how much spending is being made by each of them and how much is available to them for utilization. So it gives a detailed view of how much money they have and how much bill has, right? And there's also a department-wise spend analytics and budget utilization indicator. So this is the core benefit of the budgets module on source to pay. Any questions on budgets?
I have one doubt. Shriram, do businesses also have a use case to probably prioritize between POs? Let's say if your budget is 10K, and do POs just get approved based on the order in which they came in, or one approved PO can be rejected first and then the latest PO can be approved? Is there a use case for that?
I mean, it's a function of the business head. Let's say Subhash controls marketing budget. He has 1 crore. He realizes there is an ask from Vikram for performance marketing, and then there is a brand campaign ask for it. So the business head will take that call generally.
Got it. So shuffling
So
is
as long as they have a view of the overall utilization, they will internally be able to take that call. Yeah. So they might cancel a PO and then reissue a new one.
understood. Got it.
But isn't PO a step that comes up? It's kind of the last step of the discussion, right? Before that, we have the purchase request.
Yes.
So that is when all this, the question that Subhash asked, right? All that discussion happened at
Yeah,
that stage,
yeah.
right?
Correct.
Once that discussion has concluded, only then a
Yeah.
PO is used, right?
Yes. Correct. Okay, we're discussing payouts now. So, as you're aware, I think this part of it you're already talking to your about. So we have bulk pay invoices, so you can schedule payments and create due dates based on what works for you to optimize cash flow. You can track advances against invoices, so you know exactly how much you need to pay. There's no error in calculation or notification of payments happening. Adding TDS categories, vendors will add their GST numbers, so there's an auto calculation of TDS and GST here as well, and instant payouts to meet project deadlines. I'm sure you're aware of this, that we don't have to wait for another 24 hours or whatever it is to make any kind of payments to vendors. So the core capabilities are bulk payouts, scheduling of payouts, auto calculation of TDS, and advanced payouts and tracking.
By bulk payouts, you mean metal payouts, like
You can select like 10 to 50 or how many ever payouts and do it at once.
I mean, is it normal payouts or vendor payouts you're talking about? Because we didn't
Here we
have,
are talking
bulk.
about vendor.
we didn't have vendor payments in bulk before. The
No,
feature was not there.
No,
It's
it's, yeah.
Also, just talking about TDS in specific. You can group all your TDS payments and make it at one time.
So the bulk payments happen as different payments which are initiated in one go, or let's say if we are sending 3 invoices to a same vendor, so it happens as one payment.
I think it happens to multiple different vendors at a time.
No. My question is, let's say a single vendor has 3 invoices. So during a bulk payment, do we send that payout as a single payout to that one vendor for 3 invoices, or 3 different payments go to the same vendor? You got my question.
Yeah, understood.
No, I didn't understand.
Three different payout will go to.
I don't think it's that shit. I think it's a
Yeah,
bit
I
clarified.
think it will. Sriram, can you clarify this?
When you have a bulk payout, what is asked here?
My ask is, let's say if a vendor, one vendor has 3 to 4 invoices and we are doing a bulk payment. Let's say bulk payment has a culmination of 5 vendors which are having 6 invoices each. So would the number of payouts would be, 5 vendors, so 5 payments, and the 6 invoices for one vendor would be reconciled as a single payout and then go, or would it be a 30 payouts, like every vendor
was a
would
different
receive a
transaction.
different transaction?
The debit is 1 for the merchant, so OTP is 1, but the payment will be at an invoice level, which means each invoice will get, you'll have 1 UTR per invoice. I'll still check the experience and confirm, because both are possible in the system.
Because if the debit is 1, then it is slightly confusing.
Right? You will have to do 1 OTP only.
Nee, OTP is 1, but let's say if the debit reflecting is 1, let's say if I'm doing.
Debit, each is a transaction. Debit is
That's,
each invoice payment is a transaction, but for the merchant, They don't have to enter OTP n times. It's only one
That,
time.
that I got it. That I got it.
But
I
on
just
a vendor level,
Yeah.
is he going to receive, say, first invoice has 10,000 rupees as the amount, second
Ideally,
invoice?
yes, associate.
Will
We'll
they?
check this experience because both capabilities exist. Some merchants have asked this, some have asked that. So I know that we have both the capabilities. We'll check what is the existing one.
Okay, moving on. Input tax credit, this is just a refresher now. We went the same thing that we went through the training. So, ITC checker helps identify the risk of input tax credit and errors that the vendor might have made during filing, whether it is an IGST, CGST, what has there been change in amount or percentage or that can be identified. It helps recover credit dues, either by withholding payments or making follow-ups or maybe paying the GST later after they have made the payment to the government. Reconciling books with ease and maximizing the input tax credit than they usually have. So the capabilities here are to check vendor GST compliance, whether they are regular in filing their GST or not. Identifying discrepancies and controlling vendor payments. So this is input tax credit. Any questions you had earlier?
So we had a demo with this merchant, where merchant was asking, is it possible that you can differentiate the CGST and SGST when you are making a GST payment to that particular vendor?
It is possible, right, Srina?
Yep.
Yes.
It's possible.
The invoice itself is read as CGST, SGST split on.
The two different line items, right? So we check for each line item over there.
Understood.
I have a question here. So in our previous dashboard, we had to put the exact amount and GST percentage will be shown by our platform. Can it be like this where we put the percentage and the GST will be calculated by the dashboard? Is it possible?
I didn't get this.
Yeah, I didn't understand actually. I think feature has not been communicated correctly then. Okay, go on.
So like generally, we put the percentage and the system calculates the amount, right, for GST. If I'm not wrong.
Where?
In our vendor payment portal.
While
that is where
processing
we,
the invoice, you are saying?
yeah, while processing the invoice,
Correct.
we have to put GST, and the GST amount has to be calculated by ourselves, and amount has to be put. And when you put the amount, only the GST percentage will be shown in our existing dashboard. Whereas a customer wants a percentage to be added and the amount is calculated.
I think
there is
we are
a
discussing different things here. I don't think that's
Oh, is-
not the feature that is being discussed. I think Shweta, you might have to repeat.
Yeah.
This is for folks. This is a problem. The slide that is being shown is the problem across all companies, across all scale. This is the hero feature which will land to the client. So please listen through what she said.
Okay, so I should repeat the entire GST one, right now? Okay. So I think we should start with the problem itself. Tony, I don't know if you were there for the training, but the basic understanding of why we need a GST input tax credit checker is that merchants pay GST to vendors, right? Based on whatever GST that they have mentioned on the invoice. Okay, so it might be 18% GST, for example. Now, after merchant pays to the vendor, now there is an option for the merchant to claim an input tax credit, which is a GST refund from the government, right? Because they've already paid this GST to the vendor. So in the GST amount that they pay, this is, like an exemption that they can claim. Now, if vendor uploads and vendor files their GST at the end of the month, claiming that they have received this GST amount from the merchant and that this is the exact amount, only then the merchant receives that input tax credit. Otherwise, they don't receive it. So now, right now, the only way to find out whether the vendor has uploaded, they've filed their GST and they've declared this or not, is to wait until the end of the month and a CA does the check and all of that. But input tax credit checker does this check, every time an invoice gets uploaded, it will say whether, the vendor has filed or not filed, whether this invoice was considered or not for GST. So input tax credit checker helps identify the risk. You know, how compliant is the vendor? Are they doing GST filing regularly or not? Is there any error in the invoice that they have uploaded? And all of these information it gives us through the check. Are you clear on what the process is?
Yeah.
Folks, feel free to ask for a repeat because this is the hero feature.
So based on this problem explanation, Tony, now tell me what your question was.
See, I was talking about the basic feature about the calculation part, which was there in our previous dashboard. I don't know how our dashboard is updated on that. Yeah, I think it's not related to what we are discussed right now.
But you're clear on the input tax credit checker, right?
Right, that's clear.
Yeah. That's all.
No. Yeah.
Alright, moving on. We're talking about approval workflows now. So how you can manage invoices and approvals. So there is a multi-level approval workflow that you can create, and it's customizable. There can be multiple approvers for each cost center as well, which can be customized on source to pay, and replicate your offline approval process on as it is on RacePayX, and to get complete visibility during your audit day. So this just helps them figure out who all have approved, what have they said, and all of these things. The core capabilities are, custom workflows. Mobile application is still work in progress, multi-level multi-applications. So mobile application will be launching soon. It's not ready as of now, but it's coming soon. You can create custom workflow notification to stakeholders possible, so they can approve on the go as well. They will receive it on email. Once the app is ready, they'll receive it on app, and they can just say yes or no. And vendor communication is also automatic. So once a purchase order is approved, then it automatically gets sent to their vendor portal and even their email. So all of this is automated through this system.
Shweta, while this is very good to understand on a graphical representation, but do we have screenshots of how the product will look like in action?
We do. Sriram, do we have it ready now?
For one-dimensional approval, it is there. Two-dimensional, we'll have it in the proto soon. Like next week, we can add that also.
You will get it soon.
Yep. All features that you're seeing here will be on live prod, except I think the second dimension of approval, which will go live by November 1st. Everything else will be live by Monday.
Right, Sandeep, just to clarify, all the features that we're speaking about here, at least I was part of a training that Sriram had shared with the team where the Figma files were shared through.
Yeah.
So I think we can use that if we want to just go and get a look and feel how it looks. And B is, in this process, a side note, in this process, we were also talking to some of our competitors, right? And one of the competitors actually did the entire demo on Figma. Right? They didn't necessarily go log into the portal, show us, test account, any of that. Right? So I'm saying that we can use the existing Figma files that have been shared. I don't know who was in the meeting last time. So Subir was there last time. And so I'm just saying that you can use that if you want to get a better clarity.
Our understanding. How does the product look like?
Figma
presentation.
file mein hai. Like you just keep clicking next, it'll run you through the entire flow.
We're also going to work on a Loom video where we do the walkthrough videos and give it to you. So you will know the entire flow of it.
And Sriram, how does this work in your CA to CA auto switch or auto route?
I didn't understand. CA to CA auto route.
We have a new feature, right? Which we enable our smart feature where we can
Multi-CA routing, Sriram.
How does it work there?
Understand again. What is the link between this and that?
So, is there any compliance issue that a vendor might have to face because there's a different current account here?
How will the vendor face a compliance issue because the merchant has different current accounts?
As a company owner, if you have a current account and if you have the different vendors. So I understand some of the merchants have to undergo some KYC process.
You're going to a shop. First shop you're paying via your Google Pay, which is linked to your HDFC account. Second shop you're going and paying via ICICI, which is your account. Will the Kirana guys get impacted? No, right? It's the same way, no? The business money is business money. What has the vendor got to do with anything with it? Vendor needs money, that's all. As long as it is from this business for this invoice, vendor is sorted.
I have a different question. I'll just frame the question and give it to you, Sriram.
Yeah, let me know. If you feel there is any pushback also from customers, please do let me know because
I'll
Next, we're talking about automation. So we have OCR technology that automatically captures data from invoices. This is specifically helpful for the three-way two-way matching. This screenshot is the three-way matching. Now you can see that it's what the linked PO, identifying what the PO number is, and automatically checking whether the amount is right or not. For this particular one, it's showing there is a difference that has been detected. That there is some difference here. So the three-way matching is also an automation, comes under the automation feature. We also have, how does this help is by putting all the manual and redundant tasks on autopilot, which saves a lot of time and increases efficiency of the finance person. Vendor onboarding, KYC, vendor portal communication, GST compliance, all this normally gets done maybe on an Excel sheet and someone sends back and forth emails to get this done. But all of this now is automated. It's even out of the way for a finance person. So vendor onboarding, all of that happens on the vendor side, instead of this. And withholding of invoice clearance of PO, if PO is not approved on the system, there's also the system says cannot process if things are not right. So automation helps in basically avoiding errors, avoiding duplication and identification of where things are going wrong. So the main capabilities are OCR technology that helps it. Vendor management happens through automation, bulk upload of invoices, and two-way three-way matching. All of this happens.
I have a question. Is our OCR technology limited only to one line item, or can we do multiple line items?
So I think we do multiple. We can do multiple.
OCR is capable of reading line item level information also. So if you upload an invoice with multiple line items, high level details, GST, etc., it will capture. Then at every single line item, whatever is the attribute, it will capture. In fact, that is the core fundamental building block on which we have built the PO to invoice recon. You can upload PO, you can employ invoice, and then the system knows at a line item level what is happening between the two, and then it does the recon.
Two things, just from a sales perspective, if we can get some sort of a acceptable invoice versus non-acceptable invoice, kind of a example, right? Because when folks are actually on the call pitching to customers, they can call that out saying, yeah, while we do give OCR technology, if you end up giving a bill that's handwritten or something of that sort, stuff like that will not work. So if we can get that, I don't know if that's a concern for when you're pitching to customers.
Yeah, actually, legit question. Good question. Shweta, one thing we should do, this is a question that keeps coming. We should take samples and make a small video of, say, handwritten and others, etc. And then show that what is possible, not possible.
Okay, yeah.
Good
I
question.
think we'll include it in the Loom videos that we're doing. We will get
Yeah,
it.
these are not objections, but these are possible questions that the sales folks will get. Yeah.
And the second thing was from a marketing angle, because prior to my understanding this, I never thought OCR technology was as prominent as it is today in terms of a marketing pitch to customers. But a lot of our competitors are also heavily leaning on this. At least in the demos, they did spend a good time on showcasing how their uploading invoice matching automation happens. So I think we can learn from that as well. Is there a marketing spin on it? Can we say 99% accuracy or some sort of angle on this that can then help us get valid proof with customers in this? Can we say some numbers around this?
Can check with the vendor and come back. Yeah, but doable. Yeah, fair ask. Just remember, but it is going to be a point inside the slide only. It's not like
absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm saying I could lead with that. If I'm showcasing.
Once you enter into the invoice territory, yeah, you can lead with that. Yes. Yeah, Subhash, you were saying something.
Shriram, you mentioned upload PO, so just wanted to check, do you support the use case of businesses generating their own PO and then upload it to our system?
Possible, because we don't do PO and GRN mapping. So if somebody wants to create a PO in their existing tool, but want to do everything else in terms of control on invoice and payouts, then they will leverage upload PO. That's why it's there.
Got it.
So finally, we're talking about integrations. So integration allows for automatic delivery. Once the API integration is done, the entries happen automatically, reconciliation happens automatically, even auto categorization of transactions happens by itself. The biggest benefit is that you only manage one platform and everything can be seamlessly automated for their convenience. So I think this could be one of the biggest tasks that merchants would have.
Sorry to, but especially when you're talking to mid-market customers, I mean, I know we were used to selling to SME customers all this while, and this feature wouldn't land as well as it ideally should. But the moment you move up market, the moment you go, mid-market and that territory, integrations are a very big deal for customers and businesses because you're trying to cause the least disruption to their existing workflows, right? So again, I would encourage whenever we're talking to customers to a little bit stress on this a bit more. Even with this, there is a slight nuance, right? Like our integration with Zoho and Tally have never been as better as they have been today. Like I was speaking to Ravi and team, the way we integrate with Zoho is much more better and more deeper than it was, say, maybe last time when you were pitching to SME customers. I don't know if you're going to be discussing pricing and whatnot, but we also integrate with ERPs, right? Now, ERPs are a big deal for, again, like we showed on the slide right at the beginning when the ERP funnel was on the left. It is a big deal for mid-market customers, right? Some of these businesses have a very sacred process in terms of maintaining data flow on their ERPs. And with Razorpay X, we're ensuring that they're able to continue maintaining that sacred transaction, sacred repository of all their information by talking to it directly. Right? So ERP integrations again become critical when you're talking to customers.
From what I know, Shweta told me that we only are supporting Tally, Zoho, and SAP. We are not going to do custom ERP integration.
Fact, yes, but I'm sure if you're able to come back to us with a fairly large customer with a good revenue size.
We do have, I think we do have fairly large customers, but
I think it's a product call at the end of the day for sure. But I think that's a discussion. I don't think they're going to immediately shut you down, is what I'm saying. I mean, Sriram can chime in.
Maybe Sriram can give some clarity.
Let me know, Aditya, after the call. We'll have to talk to Ravi on this, but yeah, I can discuss. Thumb rule is Zoho Tally. What you said is correct thumb rule, but Aditya. Like Zoho Tally.
Because I'll tell you one thing, Sriram. As you know, we are basically targeting mid-market and enterprise. And if you ask me, from what we have seen, more than like people who have the use case for which we are trying to build to, more than 70% of them do have their custom ERP solutions from which they don't want to move on. So if we are getting that confidence from the product team that yes, we can do integration provided the commercials and this, we at least can take half a step ahead by telling them, sir, we can still integrate and maybe at least get him on a demo and then he'll be in love with the product and then we can take it a step ahead. But for that, I need confidence from you guys that we actually can do it, because if I tell him that yes, we can do it, get him on the demo, and then if there is a lot of chaos which is causing the delay in integration, then it would be a very bad experience.
I'll be transparent here. Unless the logo is something which is renowned and a very big logo which can help us win more, or the revenue potential is significantly and not just the pricing tiers that we have, it is not possible to support custom ERP. Accounting team has one engineer. Doing an integration will take 2.5 months. So if you do that custom ERP, that customer is going to be the only customer for the 3 months of effort, which means it's not the right thing to do. Two, I don't think the premise of saying that 70% of the customers have custom ERP. That means we are saying that Zoho and Tally are actually not there in the market. Custom ERPs are ruling and then Zoho and Tally are nobody, which is a wrong assumption. The fact that we say custom, it means that it's going to be niche. How can that be the dominant market share?
Custom ERP, I meant like people mostly in the retail segment, because retail people have like a very
I know. I think you're coming from the daily needs wala call.
Yeah.
So probably there is going to be a retail segment which will have these niche ERPs. That's okay. We have anyway not pitched for retail yet. Inventory is not something that we have built for. Outside that, Zoho, Tally, and SAP, we should be able to cover most of the market that we have.
Zoho and Tally, as long as it is there, I'm like, we are confidently going ahead and saying, but from where I'm coming from, it's more related to a retail segment from which we are talking about specifically
No,
the.
it won't work that way, Aditya. We'll need to have a big logo with big revenue potential and some sense that this particular ERP integration will not stop with just this one client. Only then the product team can pick it up. If it's going to be one client scenario, I now itself I'll tell you it won't happen. You see it, no, like one team sitting for 3 months for one client, not worth it. That's it. 1 quarter is over. ERP integrations are very complex.
Okay. Then fair enough to say that Tally, Zoho, and SAP are the ones,
Yes.
at least for the ones we are targeting.
Now we've covered all the features we had. So just highlighting and summarizing the benefits we have with all the capabilities that we have on SourceToPay. Visibility and control is the biggest benefit that they get. The financial control that we get on their daily transactions with vendors. So, and closing books and reconciling in real time and automating all of that. Seamless vendor relationship, vendor communication, onboarding all of this on autopilot. And single dashboard and complete view of the entire SourceToPay process happens in one place. And the result of all of this is maximum savings and financial efficiency because they save on time, they save funds also because of duplication errors, all of that gets saved. So their biggest benefit is this. So this is a summary of everything that we offer to them. Coming to costing, this is what the costing is going to look like for now. We are going to go ahead with Tier 1 and Tier 2, but for Tier 3 it's going to come with financial year 25. So these are the feature sets that each of them are going to receive, and I think we are in a good place because with some of the calls we've had and some competitor analysis that we've done, we are reasonably priced. And then you buy. So this is like a quick comparison, competitor benchmarking, so that you can put in your views here a little bit. We had a call with Clear and Cashflow, and turns out we have all the capabilities and they do, some of which they don't have, and which is why I think the pricing is also justified. There are some pointers you mentioned on the talk. I forgot about Finvi's pricing and stuff.
No, I think not to confuse everybody, not to go into too much granular details. What Shweta is saying is right. Everyone, all the competitors that we do see, and I'll to chime in because you're also part of these calls. They more or less do the whole stack. They might have one or two features that are missing. But I would define all of our competitors as T-shaped, right? Like they do the entire procure-to-pay journey fairly okay, but they really specialize in one particular thing, right? Like if you look at it Clear, their reconciliation GST module is second to none, right? Like if you're fighting with a customer on if their biggest need gets was GST reconciliation, and then they were also evaluating Clear, then chances are they would lean towards Clear because of how robust that module would be, right? Finly, for example, is more on the expense management and control side of things, not control, expense management and more employee extended modules, right? And Cashflow is more of an invoice discounting specialization thing, right? So if you look at just the plain simple vanilla journey, yeah, there are a lot of similarities and adjacencies that we also have, but it's about pitching your proposition as the most important proposition that their business needs. And according to you, as a salesperson for this product, you need to convince the person sitting across the table that, hey, financial control, budget insights, and never going out of budget, right? Like Shira mentioned in one of the calls, is the most important thing for your business. Sure, you might need GST, reconciliation, which we do. We do a fairly good job at it, but hey, this is what is most important. So I'm not going too much into what is on the slide there. This is just a capsule of what your competitors are pitching out there in the market.
And most of them, like you see, none of them have vendor vendor portal at all. And, also purchase orders, Cashflow has purchase orders, but you can't create purchase orders. It's just an upload purchase order feature. So although they say they do POs, they do budgets and all of that, but the detailing and the level of experience that we provide is very different from what they are giving. So, which is what we should be talking about during the calls. So these will be the core points that you can highlight. Like Finly doesn't even have a GST input check, which is a delight feature that finance folks want. So this is what you will be going out with.
Just one factual correction, Clear has a vendor portal, it's not as good as their vendor portal, they do have one. It's a little bit more robust from an enterprise standpoint, but it doesn't necessarily substantially change your life from whom you are pitching. So this reason it's not on the slide is because this was a call that was happened like 3-4 days back in this room only. So we spoke to Clear and Shriram, I think you were there. Okay, Shriram left. Okay, yeah. So I guess I was part of that call. They do have a vendor onboarding portal where they have a fairly robust vendor onboarding suite, if I could say that word. But the core functionality of inviting a vendors, them doing their KYC is what we also do. They might have more bells and whistles that are more specific to enterprise, not mid-market customers, which is true, which is a fact. We can't deny that. But they do have a vendor management portal, which is just a factual correction on what you see on the slide.
Cashflow also has a vendor portal that I saw on the website.
So I got that.
We got all the calls in there.
So I went for a demo on Cashflow as well. When you say vendor portal,
it says like you can basically automate the KYC. They basically give them the functionality of getting done with the KYC and seeing
the onboarding part.
The self-serve part which we have.
Okay, I'll answer that question with the same thing I said, that they might do it. They will do it. Everyone does it. But to the nuance that we do it, probably they do it. Right? So Cashflow, like I said for the call, you can invite a vendor and that's about it. Right? When I say KYC, that they're expecting you to do that. So when we went on the call, there was a translation understanding of aapko KYC karna padega. Like you will have to tell us who to send the link to. We will send it via our platform and they can come in and upload the
and they're doing it differently also. For some things she mentioned that there is a specific email ID, they can send the details to that and then it gets automated. There's no portal kind of an experience, but they're managing it in some other way. But as part of marketing, they do say I have a vendor portal. And also another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of things might not be existing now. Like this is sort of the current information we have. But everything they asked for, they said coming soon. So they will also get this at some point. But our biggest advantage right now is that we almost have all of these ready to go to market. So we are in a good place.
So until financial year 25, will not be getting into GRN feature or failure matching, is it?
Yeah. No, actually they will go live earlier. But
GRN is in the pipeline.
Yeah,
I would invite product to comment on timeline, but I know it's definitely the next 2 or 3 things that they're going to pick up.
Oh. Because we are getting customers.
But I understand purchase requests are going to come much later, but PO to payouts is going to get ready very soon. I will share the deck with all. This is also pretty much the sales deck that you will use, but I will remove some of the slides.
This will be shareable.
Yeah, it will be shared. So the deck is also ready. I've also prepared the script for your calling and follow-up emails, and if someone doesn't pick the call, what you need to send. And in case had the call and scheduled, then what you need to send. I created the entire doc, so that also I will send it to you. So if anything else you need apart from this, there's also one page is also updated to source to pay now, so I'll send that also. Anything else if you need, then let me.
Feedback on source to pay, Shraddha. So the previous one which we had didn't have any nuances mentioned of these features. So it would be great if you could at least put some snippets in the,
in the one page,
yeah. If you can just check the one page, like if I can give any feedback.
I will share it.
Yeah, so just scroll below. I think we have given some testimonials of some of our merchants, right?
Yeah.
So if you can, instead of, so can go above. So instead of the text thing which we have put, so in case if we could add some, like kind of the,
You want some icons?
snippets and everything.
Alright. I think snippets would not be possible, like maybe.
Not
we have-
snippets, but at least, like, I remember the one pager we had for X, which was like Razorpay X and all the features revolving it or something.
Understood. So,
Yeah.
okay. So what you're requesting for the redesign for that, to be more clear.
Yeah.
Point taken. We'll see with design if we can, if there is bandwidth, I'll pick this up.
Maybe just send me that, so I get an idea of what you're asking.
Cool. Any other question, folks? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.